I do welcome to this media briefing, impromptu called to address the country by the political leaders of Kampala in particular on matters relating to the handling of the COVID pandemic. The handling relates to the so-called austerity, arrangements, relief in terms of cash transfers, and again on the handling medically in as far as Kampala is concerned. As we know it, Kampala is the epicenter of this pandemic. Most of the problems we envisage on infections are higher in Kampala than any other place. The leaders of Kampala and the office of the law convened to share and compare information from our communities, and we want to address the country on our consensus in as far as the problems we have so far shared and concurred upon are concerned. So I invite you to share with the country our findings and sentiments and our demands in the immediacy, and we shall be addressed by the Honorable Abubakar Kawalia, the Shadow Minister for Kampala initially, and then finally by the Lord Mayor to represent the division mayors, and the Honorable Kawalia to represent the members of Parliament from Kampala. You're most welcome. Let me ask Honorable Kawalia to start the address.
Thank you, Honorable Leader of Opposition. Yes. Thank you, Honorable Leader of Opposition, the Lord Mayor, Honorable Members of Parliament, the media fraternity. As we've all heard from the Leader of Opposition, Kampala is the mostly hit area in Uganda as far as the COVID-19 pandemic is concerned. We have a quite number of challenges that we are realizing as leaders, but unfortunately, the central government has failed to understand what Ugandans are going through, most especially in Kampala. For example, when we look at the structure of the people who are supervising, monitoring, to make sure to see how the situation is being managed. We've seen people dying just because of negligence of the health system. In this, we talk about our hospitals, which are not facilitated at all. And as I'm speaking right now, all the hospitals that we have in Kampala, of which some were supposed to be managed by KCCA, were grabbed by the Minister of Health, that is Kirudu, Kawempe. At this moment, KCCA as an institution has no control over them. There is no medicine. There are no facilities like ambulances. And actually, we've had a challenge in Kampala. As I'm speaking right now, the whole district of Kampala has only 3 ambulances. And when we look at the population of people that we have in Kampala, those 3 cannot do anything. So we've decided to come out as leaders of Kampala through our forum to take this government on task, that as leaders going forward, there are issues that we need to be worked on. One of them, we need to understand the budget that we're operating on at the moment. Because we've seen the Prime Minister talking about the 53 billion. We've had the Minister of Finance talking about the supplementary budgets, where they indicated that they need 206 billion for the health sector, but we don't know how much is going to be allocated to Kampala in particular, because Kampala is the most hit area. We've decided that government needs to allocate 2 ambulances to each and every division in Kampala. That is, in total, we expect a total number of 10 ambulances. Secondly, when we realize a budget, we need to understand the structure that is going to do this work. Because as we are seated here, we are in the 3rd week of the lockdown. We expect by now that all the vulnerable groups should be catered for, because as we are speaking here, we are worried of the pandemic, but people have started dying of hunger. Our people don't have what to eat, and they are just stuck. Even those ones who operate in markets are not being given the opportunity to access their places of work. And this has been done under the leadership of the RCC for Kampala, who has made himself as a semi-god. At this moment, when you look at the district task force of Kampala, you do not see anyone like the Lord Mayor, the authority councillors, members of parliament, divisional mayors. So we need to understand who are those people who are going to manage that budget to make sure that it is implemented on the ground. When you look at the issue of registering the vulnerable groups, this work has been limited to just a few individuals, of which most of them are not on ground. So we need accountability and transparency in each and everything that's going to be done within this period of time. Because we have a maximum of only 3 weeks to end the so-called lockdown that was put in place for the 42 days. So government must know that Ugandans are being hit by quite a number of challenges, and some individuals, some government officials need to understand they need to work hand in hand with the leaders who were elected by the people of Uganda and Kampala in particular. There's a challenge of brutality and extortion of our citizens. We've seen people being beaten up by police, the army, and other security agencies with no reason. So we need this to stop immediately. The people that they are brutalizing, most of them are struggling to get what to feed their families. We need this to stop immediately so that our people can have their freedom. There's another challenge that has popped up at the moment in Kampala. Elected leaders at the division and at City Hall have been denied their right to represent their people. We've seen the RCC coming out together with the Minister of Kampala, together with the Executive Director, stopping the Lord Mayor and his team, together with the mayors at the division and their councillors, from having divisional councils and authority councils. We all know that these people need to constitute their structures. As we are speaking right now, the 5 divisions that we have in Kampala have no their executives. And that means that there's nothing that can be done. So this message goes clearly to the Minister for Kampala and the RCC that this doesn't fall under their docket. It is a constitutional right for the elected leaders to carry out council meetings so that they can try to iron out the challenges that we are having, most especially in this pandemic. As the Shadow Minister for Kampala, we are planning as members of Parliament that we are going to have a sitting on Tuesday where we are going to discuss on quite some numbers, most especially on issues of the budget, because at the moment we really don't know how much amount of money that Kampala and Metropolitan Affairs is operating on. What we are hearing, that the people of Kampala have been put a mercy of just one individual, and that is the Minister of Gender and Social Development, who is responsible to give them the relief fee, that is 100,000, and maybe the office of the Prime Minister. So those issues will be brought on the floor of Parliament, and whoever will be found doing what they are not meant to do, they will be held accountable. So these are matters of accountability, and as per the audit report, the Auditor General's report that came out recently, it showed that in the first lockdown, much monies of the taxpayer were misappropriated, and we expect the same thing that is happening right now. And actually that's why these people are not being open to each and every one, most especially to the leaders that the people are trusted to lead them. I beg to submit.
Thank you. Can I invite the Lord Mayor to make his remarks?
Well, as you have heard from our log here and the Shadow Minister for Kampala, we have had this engagement and thrashed out a number of issues. And we thank you, the log, for causing this to happen, for us to have this engagement and go through all these issues. And we'd like to register our concerns as the leaders of Kampala about the shambolic way the whole pandemic exercise has been handled, because it is twofold, it's two segmented. One, you have the aspect of the COVID management, and the other about relief, survival of the people. Both have been messed up. Actually, they have been handled in a very messy manner. And we are deeply concerned as leaders. We want to decry the fact that our people missed out on the cash transfers that were launched yesterday. It's a very serious concern. I mean, it's a matter of great concern to all of us as leaders. The people were quite expectant. They raised the anxiety, the expectations, and I'm sure many borrowed the money. Others were hoping to take their loved ones to hospital. Others were expecting at least to have a meal for the first time in the 21 days of lockdown. All of a sudden, they get reports that in Kampala the lists have not been properly validated. I think they said only 6 from Nakawa. It's a shame, a national shame. Kampala, the capital city, where actually you have everything at your disposal. Technology should start from here, the ICT and everything here. And they are giving lame excuses that probably the system collapsed. that they were using Excel instead of some other program. Total crap. And in the end, they are making our people to suffer. So as leaders, we are really concerned. For them, they are in the comfort of their luxurious homes and offices and whatnot. And our people are languishing in their mizigos in Kampala, in slum areas. It's terrible. It's horrible. So we do condemn this behavior, this manner in which the whole thing was conducted in a shambolic way by the Prime Minister, by the Minister in charge of Gender and Community Development, the RCs of Kampala and all their teams, all of them who are responsible. And we are saying they are all culpable. And that's the reason we want Parliament to call them to order. They should be held accountable. And that's the reason, as the Shadow Minister has told you, on Tuesday this matter has to be raised on the floor of Parliament. As the Rope has told you, Parliament must crack the whip on Nabanja. A whip must be cracked against the Minister in charge of Gender and whoever is responsible for this mess. You don't know how many families you are making to suffer because of your ineptitude, because of your recklessness, because of your selfish interests. We believe it's not only incompetence and negligence or inadvertence, there is foul play. We suspect there is fraud in this. Their people must be cashing in these prices because there is no serious program that has ever been properly managed by this government. Whatever scheme that comes up, it's a business to some of these individuals in the government. So we are sure there are those who are taking this as business to the detriment of our people, the masses that are suffering, the indigents who are just promised only 100,000. We pointed out all these issues and we need to highlight them once again. The whole system and process was shrouded in a mystery. The issue of collection of data, it has never been transparent and clear. Why? There is no structured framework to deal with the same. Today we will ask who is responsible for what. The Minister for Gender purported to have issued a guideline on how the political leaders should come in and play a role. But we were all shocked that that document was shelved until yesterday I raised it on a talk show. I was facing off with the minister. She said, you issued a circular on how the political leaders should come in and monitor the exercise, and that the line minister for Kampala, together with the minister for, rather the MP for Honorable Shamim Malende, I don't know where she's seated. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Honorable Shamim Malende, that they should take a key role. They should play central role in the monitoring exercise. We got this document yesterday afternoon. That's when it was brought to my office. After I put her to shame that she was lying. And now Honorable Shamim Malende and others are just learning it now, that actually the minister had appointed some MPs to be part of this process. What a shame. What an insult. And now, they ended up doing the whole exercise, as the Shadow Minister for Kampala said, with a handful of people involving GSOs, VSOs and PSOs, and the technical people, the town clerks who have been given 4 million each for division urban councils, to the exclusion of the mayors. You can imagine they have been dealing directly with the town clerks, giving them handouts, 4 million, without the involvement of the mayors. And now they have turned out, the whole thing has turned out to be a farce. They were put to shame at the last, because they kept on assuring people, you just wait. You remember what Nabanja was saying? Come Tuesday, Wednesday, you just take on your phone. Something, now people yesterday were waiting something. I'm sure Ugandans in their homesteads who are privileged to have those smartphones. We are keeping checking. Nothing. You can imagine. And Nabanja went home to have good meals with her family. And so did Honorable Amongi. That's the reason we want them to be called to order. This is not showbiz. It's not showbiz. Because for them it's like they're no showbiz. Others it's like a holiday of sorts for them. These MPs were saying, I mean the ministers. So it's something that must be taken seriously, and I'm glad that Rob and the entire team of MPs from Kampala here, they are ready to take the bull by the horns. And come Tuesday, the roof of the house must be brought down so that everybody gets to understand that all is not well in Kampala. They must get to understand that people are not okay, that people are dying, that people are suffering in their homes. This house cannot sit comfortably in the center of the city here when people are dying. And that's the reason we call upon Ugandans who are being brutalized. The issue has been raised again by the shadow minister here. Ugandans, you can't sit comfortably also in your homes and waiting for Nabanya. And waiting for. Please, let's assert ourselves. They have trampled on our rights more than what is reasonably acceptable. It's now inordinate. They are beating up people in Karewe, they are beating up in Kawerewe, they are beating up people in Chikubo. Those even want to access businesses and get their small merchandise and see how they can vend it from wherever they can do it. They are all being harassed, they are being persecuted, others are being imprisoned. How do you treat Ugandans like they are not human beings, like beasts? So this is totally unacceptable. So we are saying Parliament should intervene, and I'm glad Rob and the entire team are going to raise this matter on the floor of the House. The other thing is about the budget again. It's a total absurdity that we don't know the budget they are using to conduct the operations in Kampala. I mean the fight against the pandemic. We are just looking at this ping pong as if it's drama in Parliament. The Honorable Abdu Katuntu is putting to task the minister in charge of finance to explain the audit queries raised by the Auditor General, because the Auditor General brought out the figures and said, you people, in the previous, in phase 1 of the lockdown, COVID-1, you used over 5 trillion. And then Kashaija says, for us we have used only 4 trillion. As if they are talking about pocket change. These trillions, it's a lot of money. Kashaija, let me remind you, are talking about 4,000 billions. So it's a lot of money. But now Kampala, as the epicenter of COVID, we don't know how much they have spent here and how much they intend to spend. Honorable Ruth Acheng, for example, she presented a budget of 1.7 trillion to Parliament. 1.7 trillion, what she wants again now. And said so far what they have got is 461 billion. But how much is going to be spent in the epicenter of COVID, that is Kampala and the metropolitan area, is something which is not known. They have not liaised with the leadership in the cases here. They are not liaising with the MPs of Kampala. They are not consulting anyone. They are just coming up with their figures, presenting them to Parliament for approval, and thereafter they go on a cash bonanza. It's just cash bonanza for some of these people. So we want Parliament also to interrogate this matter, and again, I'm happy Parliament, the Europe has, and the team are going to raise this before this money is appropriated, before the IMF $1 billion is appropriated. How much is going to be spent? We need a clear breakdown. You are told, I'm here as the Lord Mayor, and I'm giving you first-hand information. You can cross-check this. Ever since the day they declared that Uganda is facing this pandemic. That was 18th March. And Mr. Museveni rolled out those strenuous, those hard-hitting, those biting measures, the lockdown measures. No single ambulance has been bought for cases here. Can you imagine? And I saw even in the budget and in the accountability, I think, Honorable Ruth Acheng is putting their money for ambulances. You have been told only 3 ambulances, and those were they were not bought during the COVID period. So as of now, not even a single ambulance has been bought. That's the reason we want at least 2 ambulances for each division. At least that when we are called, when the mayors are called, when the MPs are called, we can direct them. Now we are the mass of individual MPs who are bought their own ambulances. If you get somebody who is sick, you say, Honorable Kawalia, Honorable Mukasa, Honorable Nyeko, Honorable who, please, can you come to the rest of the people? And these people are also vulnerable because they don't have PPEs, they don't have all what it takes to deal with COVID patients or suspects. And this is how messy the situation is. So that's the reason we are insisting we need to get the budget. Lastly, we must call to order Hood. He has called him a demigod. Semi-god. He has arrogated himself absolute powers to run the city. We have asked Hood, who elected you? He has got goons who are beating up people. He has mentioned the police officers. He has mentioned the military. But if literally they are goons who have been hired to beat up people, and they are being paid, trained, and unleashed on the people by none other than the RCC for Kampala. Mr. Hood will say, I would want to put you on notice. We're not going to take this lightly. We're not going to allow you to keep on beating out people like that. You have the video footages. You saw women wailing, crying. There is a woman in Kalweri who was crying terribly, profusely, as they were beating up her son. But why brutalize people like that? The extortion going on in Kampala here, it's like there is no lockdown. Let me tell you this. It's like there is no lockdown. The traffic jams you will see along Clock Tower, or most of these places, these my cars are all over because they're extorting money. Every checkpoint, chitu chidogo, they're extorting. Even peddler, or rather pedestrians. Even pedestrians, they pick money from them. They do this, they do that. It's terrible. It's horrible. It must be brought to check. That's why we are concerned as leaders of Kampala. And we are speaking with one voice, and we are coming together. Every option is going to be explored. We are going to leave no stone unturned, and want everybody on board. And I appeal to mayors, go ahead with the council sittings, so that the structures are fully constituted. Whether it's done by defiance or what, we shall come out to assist you, because we need to have all these structures in place. That's the reason for us in cases here the other day. We had to hold the council sitting by defiance. Who came to stop it and was overwhelmed. He looked around and said, now where do I start from? I was putting on my guns, but I was ready to take him on. I told him, okay, they have stopped this meeting. You are going to see us. Because that's the language they have to understand now. For him, he's moving all over. I'm afraid and I'm worried he must be even a COVID carrier. Because he's all over. How immune is he? You like a taira, all over. And the rest, you keep in your homes, you spread COVID. Who tells you for you don't spread COVID and it's Honorable Mpuuga will spread it? We can't accept that kind of nonsense. I thank you.
Can I invite the Lord Mayor initially to briefly summarize for us in Runavudu?
Can we ask just one question?
Please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor and the members of Parliament. You're talking about a special budget for Kampala. In your situation, how much do you need to help you handle the COVID situation, both on the side of relief and on the side of the health intervention?
On the side of health intervention, the budget should be commensurate to the magnitude of the work we have at hand. Kampala is the epicenter. Mr. Museveni himself showed the curve and he said Kampala is on the extreme end. So that should also be reflected in the budgetary appropriations. But it shocks us that he simply talked about it, he just lamented and bashed the people of Kampala and said, Bananta buliriwa, basabala bomba. You get it? Bananta buliriwa, big-headed, as if telling them, go and die. So, you see, we are talking about trillions and trillions. So if you are asking for 1.7 trillion, Madam Ruth Acheng, and you have 461 billion. Let's first look at what you have now. We have presented before council an 11-point program which requires a lot of money. We want to build our capacity to be able, first and foremost, to handle surveillance, to monitor the entire city. We have a team of health workers, including village health committees, who are doing the surveillance. They are not fully equipped. They don't have PPEs. They are equally vulnerable. We have health centers. Honorable Kawali has told you we don't have any hospital under our charge. We have health centers which do not have capacity to manage COVID patients. At least we should be able to get drugs to manage mild cases, those that have been. So we need enough vaccines. The second batch they gave us only 50,000. In a city where you have 1,700,000 residents, they gave you only 50 doses. The testing kits are finished. They are over. And that's why you see they are just keeping the blame on other people instead of taking and owning up the responsibility. So we are saying for us to be able, listen, to help Ugandans from these silos, the private hospitals, because now they are in the spotlight, that they are charging exorbitant costs. Let us equip our facilities. We buy oxygen cylinders. We must have ICU beds in our facilities, and we must have these ambulances. So you can roughly help us estimate what is required in a nutshell. Because I'm not a technical person to say how much that can take, but at least I've spelled out what is required.
Yes, yes, sir.
I think I just to clarify more, when the Shadow Minister for Kampala was saying that the central government has brought the KC hospital, that's the river and the Wembley. I just wanted more clarification. How central government has brought these KC hospitals?
This is a fight we have had in KCCA for some good time. When Kirudu, Naguru, and Kawempe were elevated to a status of referral hospitals, they were literally grabbed by the central government. They are no longer under the administration and management of KCCA. We don't have them within the list of our health facilities. Right now, every health facility, because now it's the practice I can see, every health facility which is elevated to the status of a hospital is taken over by the central government. It's a national shame and embarrassment that you have a capital city with a city leadership here. You've seen our tower there, with no single hospital under our control and management. We don't have a single hospital. We have a health center. Chisenyi is health center 4. Kawara has just been upgraded to health center 4. It was health center 3. Komamboga is health center 3. Chiswa is health center 4. Chitebi is also in between there. It is 3 in transition. So the way they are telling us it is in transition. So this is an absurdity. You've seen cities all over the world. Cities manage hospitals. Cities can manage even referral hospitals. But you imagine it will do. A national referral hospital, they can't even give you steroids if you are a mild case of COVID. You can't get the steroids from Kirudu. At least those are the basics one can get. But they can't. I can't talk. So we are saying they should be under the management of KCCA. We have a World Directorate in charge of public health. We have an executive secretary minister in charge of public. We have all the doctors there. We even have consultants. By those consultants they took to Kirudu. We are KCCA doctors. We have those consultants. But they were all taken over by the ministry and they have messed up our hospitals. Kirudu now is stinking. They have even failed to manage sewage there. You go there, failing to manage sewage. So they take over our facilities and mess them up. They have messed up Nabu. Kawempe people are sleeping on the floor. Those mothers who are delivering, they are literally sleeping on the floor. So they should return our facilities. We manage them better. That's what we are saying.
On the same issue?
The last one, about you are the fan of this city. At least give us the figure of the budget you need. Let's give us the figure.
You see, it's difficult as of now, because I'll tell you this, there is a background to this, you'll understand. During COVID-1, he was the speaker. I was the Lord Mayor. We sat in the executive, worked out a budget. You recall? We worked out a budget which was a very reasonable budget of 80 billion. And the technical said it should be around 11 billion.
It was 16.
No, it was 16 and then brought it down. Then when we submitted it to the technical team for onward transmission to our minister, and from there to Parliament, we got a shock of our life. That along the way, it was doctored to read 31 billion. And when it came to Parliament here, Parliament appropriated 2 billion. And 1 billion was taken by the minister for Kampala, the then minister for Kampala. So what reached the coffers of KCCA was 1 billion, which is yet also to be accounted for. So I am hesitant to begin giving figures to a government which does not appreciate systems. And that's why we want to emphasize the needs so that they give the figures. For us, we don't care. They know what to do there. We want to emphasize the needs. That's why we have listed what is required in Kampala. Let them attach the figures.
Last question to the Lord Mayor.
Yes, I have two. One, Oliver, you've been in the state for some years. You said 1.7 are the people living within Kampala.
1.7 million.
Yes.
Those are the residents.
Yes.
And the dead population is around 4 million.
Yes. And how many of those do you think they are permanent?
You see, for them, they have said 157 households. But I was telling them, look here. Their records, you know, in my language, they say, when they wanted to deal with the borders and throw them out of camp, they said, hey, they are very, very many. We asked them, how many are they? They said, we have 200,000 border cyclists. And, are we together? Each border cyclist is a head of a household. No border cyclist comes from Honorable Mpuuga's home or any other. They have their own mizigos. So 157 households cannot even cut up for borders alone. Because if they are considering households only, supposing, okay, let's get a conservative figure. If we have 150,000 border cyclists in Kampala, already that money goes to that sector alone, that cluster, border cyclists, because those are 150,000 households. Now, each taxi driver is a head of a home. Each conductor is a head of a home. And we have over 50,000 taxis in Kampala. So if you have a driver and a conductor, those are 100,000 people. Those are 100,000 families. So you can see what these people are talking about. They don't have clear statistics. We have letters from Ubos and the NITA and the NIRA. They are all explaining and saying the task they gave them was gigantic and vague. It was not clear. So there is no way they could get this figure. That's the reason now they are relying on ISO. How can you get ISO to verify residents? To get a list. Now the lists, the final checkpoint for this list is ISO, that is GISO and the PISO. Imagine. These are the people now verifying the beneficiaries. It's terrible.
The last one. You budget for how much you're going to collect in this financial year as taxes. Kampala is on lockdown. How much have you expended that will be the loss of the taxes in Kampala?
Kampala enjoys a special status, it's not a district. And that's the reason it has to get special funding unlike other districts. That's what we were told. And by the way, for your information, when it comes to funding, when it comes to administration and governance, they tell you, Kampala is under central government. Everything has to come from central government. When it comes to funding, they said, you have to go for local revenue. When it comes to funding, we are local. When it comes to powers, sharing powers, they say, we are under central government. You can imagine that kind of contradiction, which is bordering on fraud. So, anyway, our budget for this financial year is 341 billion total budget. There is no COVID. There's no provision for COVID. Our local revenue is staggering around 80 billion. There is no provision for COVID.
It was 100.
What is going to be realized? We estimation, because with the setting in of COVID, previously we've been collecting 100, but now we expect to collect 80 billion. Because of the vagaries we have suffered, the socio-economic vagaries we are suffering in Kampala, there's going to be a slump. So that is the situation. But now we are saying, look, get this money from the central coffers. Because the shop from which you are getting income tax, VAT, export duty and import duty and whatnot, all those shops are the ones which you are forcing to pay trading license and property rates. So you don't condemn us to local revenue. We want money from the central coffers to come to cases here to be able to deal with this issue.
Let's take our questions to the issues we addressed. Very briefly, 2 minutes for the Lord Mayor to summarize in Uganda and the Shadow Minister. We are running late.
Mu dakiika bbiri zokka twenyamira okuba nti Kampala bagikasuse ebweru bwe kyatuuse mu kugaba akasente. Ate nga mukyala Nabbanja abadde aw'essuubi bannakampala nti mwe mulinde we naatuukira ku Lwokusatu era abagala okugoya akawunga amazzi mufumbe ku Lwokusatu akantu kajja kubaayo tatata. So bwe tutuukidde ku Lwokuna ne basalawo okulonkinga exercise Kampala ne bagireka ebweru. Ate nga bagireka ebweru si lwa bakulembeze bano be mulaba wano, si lwaffe obaani, lwa mivuyo gyabwe gyennyini. Bo bennyini be bavuddeko emivuyo. Bakugamba nti tebalina lisiti ya Kampala, ng'ate bino byonna twabibagamba nti ogwo omulimu temujja kugusobola kugukola. Gwe Honorable Prime Minister Nabbanja otuula eri mu Prime Minister's Office. Honorable Amongi oyo gwe mulaba abeera eri tamanyi bifo eri wansi ku ground. Ne baleka abakulembeze ebweru. Abeerosi baali badde bawandiisa dda abantu. Bammeeya baali badde bakola dda omulimu nga basupervisinga abeerosi. Ezo lisiti ne mu wiiki emu zaali badde zaatuuka dda. Naye bo ne basalawo ne bagamba Nabbanja akolagane ne minisita wa genda, bakolagane ne batawuni clerks b'amagombolola babawaddeyo miliyoni 4 buli omu. Bakwataganye ne ba GISO simanya be bayisa mu lisiti zino, kati abeerosi bagenda batwalira bi lisiti nga bifu. Abeerosi bagamba bano bimutuleetedde baawa situbamanyi. Kati beesanze mu katu bawuza nti simanya waliwo abantu mukaaga Kampala erimu miliyoni 1 emitwalo 7 noga nti mwasobodde okufunayo amannya mukaaga era ng'okyeyita Prime Minister, ng'okyeyita Minisita wa Genda mbugwe wakikola ky'abantu, ng'okyaddeawo nti bwe Minisita wa Kampala oba waki. So ekyo kye baakoze kya buswavu, naye tekikoma kuba kya buswavu, kiyumizza nnyo abantu baffe. Kisookera ddala akasente kano katini ddala. Waffe twali tulowooza nti Kampala tebaali gitutte nga districts ndala, kubanga ebyetaago by'e Kampala si bye byewalala. Kale bwe baali badde walala bagabye 10, Kampala baalisuusizaamu, kubanga Kampala mulimu renti, mulimu okugula amanda, mulimu okukola buli kino nekino nekiri, naye ekyo baalemye okukikola. So ndi musanyufu nnyo nti olwali bwe tutudde Rob ne ttiimu ya Parliament ensonga bagenda kuziteeka ku fulo ya Parliament ku lunaku olwokubiri. Era Parliament tugisuubira ku olwo n'ennyingi okunkumuka bwe zibaamu nga mweziri mu luufu ya Parliament. Eddoboozi ery'omwanguka mu babaka bonna abalumirwa abantu si ba Kampala bokka muveeyo ku nsonga eno Parliament eziyingiremu era nga tugamba nga temunnaba kuyisa nsimbi ndala zonna ensonga eno emala okugonjoolwa abantu bafiira mu mayumba abantu banyegerezebwa ekyokubiri ye budget nti KCCA terina budget tuwulira butabalika na butabalika bwe boogerako mu Parliament naye eri teri akakiiko ka Honorable Abdul Katuntu kakizudde Auditor General yaleeta reporting eraga nti obutabalika buli 5 nezigwamu Honorable Mukasayija naga nti ffe tumanyi obutabalika buna bwe twakozesa naye obutabalika buna ffe no mu Kampala nga tetulabayo yadde nti n'obuwumbi 5 bubwo mwabuteekayo kubanga ebbanga lyonna okuva covid lwajja tebagulanga ambulance amalwaliro gaffe gonna health centers temulimu ICU bed nemu ne bw'oba oyagala steroids ezirwanyisa covid ze basookera in fact steroids ngenze ku nnene vitamin C ne bw'oba omwagala mu health center ya KCCA tojja mufunayo nti ojja kugenda mu Kisenyi oba ekiswa oba wabako vitamin C bagambe nti ojja kugira obeerera ku obyo olabe nga bwe weerwanako taliiyo tetulina oxygen cylinders teziriiyo tewali byetaagisa byonna n'abakozi baffe abamu tebasasulwanga abaavuga emmotoka ku mulundi guli village health workers ababa village health committees abakola ku bya surveillance nabo tebasasuddwa tebaweerezeddwa na personal protective equipment wetwogerera abasawo baffe bafudde ba health workers baffe bafudde abakozi mu kitongole bafa abali mu ICU bangi abalwadde bangi ekitongole ekimulaba ekirwadde ekifumbekedde mu cases awo bali omwo tetulina bikozesebwa kubanga bali vulnerable bali exposed naye ensimbi eno butitimbe n'obutitimbe tuwulira babwogererako minisita ne banne mu committee so twawulidde nga Honorable Ruth Aceng agamba nti baagala akatabalika kamu mu obuwumbi 700 bwe mbanga nafunye figures ntuufu 1.7 trillion munaye balinawo obuwumbi 465 naye twagala okumanya Parliament nga tennayisa nsimbi ezo ezijja mu Kampala ewasinze okufumbekera ekirwadde ziri mmeka okugula ambulances okuteekawo abasawo baffe okubasasula obulungi ne risk allowances okubawa personal protective gear okugula oxygen cylinders okuteekawo ebitanda okuteekawo eddagala eriyambako okuweweeza covid n'ebirala biri ludda wa mukyala Ruth Aceng so tuli basanyufu nti Parliament ensonga ezo zigenda kwogerebwako ekisembayo kyekyokuba nti Hudu yeefudde mawale kiwagi mu kibuga Kampala buli wamu Hudu omulaba adda wali era nze luyanze ku sitewo namugambye ntya n'okunsemberera gwe olabika olina n'ekirwadde kubanga Hudu yeefudde nti ye buli kimu yakikolako n'akyemalira ate structures endala nga zirekeddwa bweru abakulembeze abalonde we bali ba meya bakansalas abeerosi abaaki agamba ye yayina okukola omulimu ogwo enkiiko n'azituulira so tugamba enkiiko zirina okugenda mu maaso zituule ez'abakansalas era ffe twalutuuziza era tugenda mu maaso n'okutuuza endala wakiri tukole audit era tugamba nti Hudu abantu bewaleeta ab'emiggo tetugenda kutunula butunuzi abantu bakubiddwa emiggo mu kibuga Kampala mbabuulire babakuba kawempe mulaba balajana mwalabye omukazi ayaziira n'alajana omwana wange mukubira wa bwerere omwana wange mumuttira bwerere nga bo bongera kuba miggo Hudu yabakutte Hudu yakomandinga walinze mbabulira mu kitongole oyinza okugamba director wa public health oyinza okukola ku kino ne kino akujuliza Hudu aba enforcement kati ye komanda wa enforcement ya KCCA Hudu ya commanding abasirikale ya commanding abakubi b'emiggo embeera teyinza kukkirizika era bannakampala tubagamba bannange namwe n'abatulugunyizibwa bano basajja tubasitukiremu era musitukemu amaloboozi gasituke era n'abalala nga bajja mu busimbi be basoloozamu ensimbi nabo kuba kati Kampala mugirabe abasajja bagufuula muganda bagamba bagenda gaba sticker naye sticker genda otekewo namwe mugende mukole investigation nabo bawaliwo balina stickers n'emmotoka zitambula bajjamu akasente kano bajjawo bagira bati kati ebyo ebiri mu kibuga Kampala naye twagala abantu abavunaanyizibwa ku mbeera eyavuddeko bannakampala okubanga bamisinga ssente bakangavulwe Honorable Nabbanja Honorable Amongi ne bannaabwe abaavuddeko mu meeso eno yonna bannakampala obutafuna kasente kano ak'emitwalo 10 ng'ate babadde bakalinze Parliament ebakangavule era balina n'ebintu bye bateekawo nti structures nga n'abo bateddeko tebamanyi olungi baga nti Honorable Shani Malende ajja kubeera ne minisita wa Kampala bakulire monitoring mu Kampala n'ebbaluwa naye tatuuka twamaze kaza Honorable Amongi ebbaluwa yakatuuka lunaku lwajjo kati tugiyiseemu nga ne system yonna ekolapsinze so mesi gye bakozinze balina okukangavulwa era eyi position yafaawo tuyimiridde amalwaliro gaffe twagala gakomewo ge batwala gabalemeredde Kiruddu evunze ne Kasasiro ne Kazambia abalemye okumanejinga Kiruddu eyo gye mulaba erimu CT scan twagigula sente nnyingi nenjagala ogendeyo togenda kukola ku CT scan wakati akaseera kano waka checking amawugwe mu COVID CT scan erina okukola ennyo olwaleero Kiruddu layini yali baddawo ng'abantu buli omu ngenda Kiruddu kola CT scan bankebera amawugwe gange ndabe naye CT scan yafiira awo eri awo twali tuli ku levu yakuteekawo MRI nga gye tutuuseeko naye ffe balitwalira okuli tujja ku KCCA mu busente obutono nga tutaddewo CT scan okuva lwe balitwala tebalina kye baali boogedde poliisi babuserebi era Kiruddu bagamba abantu kasitotwa era omuntu yenna kasitawuli kati agenze Kiruddu nga famire zitandikako abantu oyo afudde tetuyinza kubeera natwaliro lufaana bweru Kawempe hospital nga lyabakyala bazaala naye bazaalira ku mbalaza eryo lyafa Naggulu eryo yemulaba lyali Abachina baali balitaddemu ensimbi ne tulwana nga liddwaliro lyaffe lya Naggulu kakati gavumenti yawakati neeritwala ne balijjako n'erinnya lyayo ne baligiyita erinnya paavu sentence nambali China Uganda Friendship Hospital webito genda yombirabe China Uganda Friendship Hospital paragraph number kakati kyebasobola okuteekawo naye eddwaliro ne baliyita kati twasigaza health centers ezitali mu kantu konna ffe kyetwagala budget ntono egenda okulaba nti omuntu agenda mu ddwaliro asobola okufunayo ati steroids wabeera nti waliwo yeetaaga oxygen ng'amufuna wabe nga oxygen cylinders gye ziri wabeera nga waliwo eyeetaaga okukeberebwa nga CT scan zaffe zikola wabeera ICU bed zisobole okuteekebwayo so tubeere ne health centers ezisobola okukola omulimu ogwo then stepping up ne vaccination centers zonna zibenga zikola abantu babenga bakeberebwa nga bagemebwa tusobole okulwanyisa ekirwadde n'ebyo byonna tebabitaddeeko nsimbi Honorable Ruth Achenge nga tannaba kunnyonnyola ensibo ebyo bigenda kukolebwako Parliament gisaba temuyisa 1.7 trillion ez'okugamba nti zigenda ku COVID again nga tannaba kubannyonnyola nti ebyo byonna mu Kampala bigenda kukolebwako kubanga ekifo kirwadde wekisinze okusimba amakanda
tuyanza Lord Mayor tuweyo Shadow Minister dakika 2 beekubya ddamu mu Luganda very fast.
Tweyanzenge nga bwe tukimanyi mu kaseera kano akazibu ennyo ak'ekirwadde kimumima mawuggwe waliwo ensonga nyingi ezigenda mu maaso mu abo abakungu mu gavumenti ze balabye ng'ez'okubalaata obubalaasi tebazitutte nga nsonga nga tukimanyi bulungi nti tuli mu lockdown omuggalo ogwateekebwaho Mwami Museveni okuba nga bannayuganda tebakyava mu maka gaabwe nga tukimanyi bulungi nti n'ebyokulya tebabirina. Bw'otunuulira enkola ey'okuwandiika abantu abo bali balowooza nti balina okufuna ssente abakungu mu gavumenti bagizanyiddemu era kino kigendera ddala owa ministers nga owa kikula ky'abantu awamu ne Ssaabaminisita kwogatta ne ttiimu zaabwe zonna ze baali balonze nga balowooza nti bagenda kuwa abantu ssente mu wiiki emu okuva omuggalo gwali gulangiriddwa. Naye bw'okitunulira essaawa zino bwe kitambula, kumpi tuli mu kumalako wiiki ya kusatu mu muggalo guno, naye nga n'abantu baffe tebalina ke baalabye wadde. Ate era bw'obyetegereza n'essuubi abantu ligenda libaggwamu, naye ng'ate bw'olaba ku media center baminisita gye bagenda okwogerako ebyo ebiba bigenda mu maaso, buli lwe bagenda bongera ggumya. Naye ffe olwaleero ng'abakulembeze ba Kampala ku mitendera egy'enjawulo, nga tukulembeddwa mukama waffe akulira oludda olwawula gavumenti, tusazeewo tuveeyo tubeere n'ensonga ze tutunuulira. Era njagala okwebaza Lord Mayor awamu ne bammeeya ba divisions nti basazeewo bajje batubuulire bye bigenda mu maaso. Naye kyanaku nnyo nti ku bigenda mu maaso naddala nga mu Kampala tukimanyi bulungi nti yesinze okukosebwa ennywa ekirwadde kino, tetumanyi nambalirira Kampala gyekozesa mu kaseera kano. Twagala okumanya embalirira gye tulina mu Kampala. Ekirala, abakungu ba gavumenti nga minisita w'ekikula ky'abantu ne prime minister bo basazeewo emirimu gikola nga bo bokka nga bakukuta bukukusi. Waliwo ebbaluwa ezize ziwandiikibwa era nga ziraga nti mulimu abakulembeze nga omukulembeze akiikirira abakyala mu Kampala awamu ne minisita wa Kampala banaalondolanga ensonga zino okulaba nti zitambula bulungi. Naye kyanaku nnyo nti ne omubaka omukyalo wa Kampala talina kyamanyi, era ebbaluwa tugifunye lwaleero nga Lord Mayor agituleetedde, naye nga naye tumubuuza nti tukusuubira okuba nga olina information ku kigenda mu maaso, naye nga kennyini naye talina. Bw'otunulira ebyobulamu, ekirwadde kino yes tutunulira emmere nga n'abantu baffe batandise okufa enjala, nga ekibatta enjala tebalina kye balidde, naye n'ebyobulamu byennyini tebitunuliddwa nga waliwo omuzannyo mungi nnyo. Bw'otunulira amalwaliro eddagala teririimu, ate bw'otunulira n'ebintu ebikulu ennyo nga ambulances, kyewuunyisa nti mu Kampala essaawa zino mulimu emmotoka esobola okuba nga zitaasa obulamu bw'abantu 3 zokka ku bantu akakadde kamu mu 7 abasula mu Kampala. So ekyo kyenyamiza nnyo, era ng'olukiiko luno tufunye enteekateeka ey'okuteeka gavumenti ya wakati ku nninga nti tubeere n'enteekateeka nga buli division erina ambulances 2 ezisobola okuyamba abantu nga bafunye obuzibu, era tusuubira okuba nga Kampala nga tulina ekitono ennyo ambulances 10. Ensonga endala, waliwo okutulugunya abantu okugenda mu Kampala, era nga Lord Mayor bwakyogedde okukulibwa nga kukulembeddwamu RCC wa Kampala, era tumutegeeza mbunnambiro nti obuyinza tabuyina. Mulimu abantu baffe bangi abakolera mu butale, ate nga tukimanyi nti obutale bwasigala nga tebuggaddwa, ate nga n'abantu baffe gye balina okugenda okugula ebintu ebyokukozesa ewaka. So bakubiddwa, abamu ne balemerwa n'okubutuukako, nabo bennyini abakola tebasobola kutuuka ku bintu byabwe. Mu kaseera kano ke tumanyi nti n'omuggalo gwennyini ogwali guteekebwawo tegwalangirirwa kuweebwa budde, abantu baaleka ebintu byabwe ebyamaguzi mu maduuka, ebimu byonooneka. Waliwo pressure eriwo ey'abalandiroodi okuba nga banyigiriza abantu, batandise n'okugala amayumba nga bagagenda bagaweldingako ogasiba ogalaga nti tebalina gatuukamu. So mu mbeera eno yennyini nga n'emisolo giringa misolo, tulowooza nti mukulu Hood RCC wa Kampala kyakola kikyamu era kiyimirize mu bunnambiro, nga mu kiseera kyekimu era ye muntu y'omu alemesezza entuula za councils ez'oku division okuba nga zigenda maaso, ate nga tukimanyi bulungi nti waliwo abakulembeze abalina okuweebwa obuvunaanyizibwa basobole okukolera awamu ne bammeeya baabwe. So tumutegeeza nti ekintu ekyo tugenda kuba nga tukibeerako okutuusa nga kituukiridde bulungi. Ku lwokubiri, Parliament erina olutuula, era ensonga nnyingi nnyo zigenda kuba zireetebwa okuba nti tuzoogerako, naye nga ensonga ezinyiga bannakampala ddala mu kaseera kano zigenda kubeera ku mwanjo nnyo, era nga tukulembeddwa mukama waffe leader opposition. Tugenda kuba nga tuzanja ng'era we muzitegedde nga Lord Mayor bw'azoogeddeko ezisinga obungi naffe butuzongerezaako tugenda kubanga tuvayo nga tuteeka abo betuwulira abaagala okusaba ennyongereza mu ministries zaabwe ng'ey'obulamu, security, kuteeka bana ba Ministry of Gender abagala budget ya sente za relief n'ebirala nga tebinaba kuyisibwa balina okuvaayo okutulaga Kampala esinza okukosebwa ennyo, esinza okufiirwa abantu, musinza okubeera abalwadde n'ebintu ebirala byonna ebigenze mu maaso. Batubuulira nteekateeka ki gye balina okulaba nti Kampala bagivujjirira naddala mu kaseera kano akasinga okubeera akazibu. Neeyanza nnyo neeyanzire.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kawalia. In a nutshell, comrades, we have agreed to take on this task, and make no mistake, we shall demand for answers come next week. One of the key issues emerging, and it was reported various in the media, that some citizens who sought vaccination actually were injected with water. This is criminal, and we do not see any movement from the part of government to investigate this criminality. I have instructed my team to follow up this matter. We are going to demand that a proper report be made before Parliament as to who is responsible for this negligence and the criminality that will cost us dear going forward. These recare systems are the cause of this, but we want to get to the core of the real culprits that could have caused this to happen to our citizens. We thank you so much for your patience and time, and may you be blessed. Okusoma kwasooka buddu nga temunaza. Ensonga gye ŋŋamba nti ensonga zino ezoogeddwako abakulembeze ba Kampala nsonga nkulu nnyo, si eri bannakampala bokka, naye bw'olagajjalira Kampala kiba kitegeeza n'ebigenda maaso mu Uganda ologootana birogootane. Tugenda zigoberera mu Parliament, waliwo n'ensonga enkulu eyayogeddwako yabadde ne mu mawulire ey'Abannayuganda baagenda okugemebwa ne bakubibwa amazzi. Ekisooka twagala okutegeera amazzi gatuuka gatya okufuuka eddagala mu ddwaliro lya gavumenti ery'Ekiswa eriri mu Kampala. Tugenda kulondoola ensonga eno era abavunaanyizibwa ku bulagajjavu obwo obujja okuvaako okufiirwa obulamu bw'abantu tugoberera. Ebyo binaagenda bwe bityo, abantu bajjala kutya n'okugemebwa olw'obulagajjavu buno. Naye gavumenti n'abakufa tulaga nti waliwo abantu abakwatiddwa oba abavunaanibwa olw'obulagajjavu buno. Naye singa obagamba nti Lord Mayor alina olukungaana ku City Hall, obagedde ku Hudu agenda aleereeta njagala atooka atwe lipoota ku kyokkuba abantu amazzi alyoka agenda aleetere mu nkiiko ez'abantu abaalondebwa. Ndowooza abantu abafaananga ye ekyo ekizibu ky'eggwanga lino, era y'ensonga lwaki tuli wano twali tukola bintu birala nnyo. N'olwekyo tugenda kulondoola ensonga zino okulaba nti tuwaddewo okuzannyira ku bulamu bw'abantu. Era njagala kusaba ne bameeya ba divisions obuyinza oba baweebwa abantu babuwola buwozi, abantu babawa obuyinza mu bujjuvu mubukozese okulaga abo abagenda balolota n'obuyinza obwazika entisi bwabwe. So tubasaba n'okufuna lipoota okuva gye mu kanso zammwe, muteekewo enkiiko zikolere abantu. Oba ssentebe w'ekyalo akola, meeya division ayinza atya okuba nga takola? Bw'okola structure ng'erimu meeya, erimu n'ababaka ba Parliament, ate n'ogamba nti talina kutuula, akolere mu kirooto, alooteeko birooto by'alina okukola, alogotane birogootane nga yeebase. Ndowooza akavuyo kano tusobola kakkiriza ng'abakulembeze b'abantu, n'olwekyo tugenda kubuuza ebibuuzo ate ansa tuzaagala mu bwangu. Mwebalinyi.
Osudo omuntu badde nokalimu